And we start this out in the Middle East with comments by President Trump on Gaza. He has proposed removing 1.5 million of its Palestinian residents and asking Jordan and Egypt to take them. He told journalists the Strip was literally a demolition site and suggested it be cleaned out. Israeli bombardments have reduced much of Gaza to rubble. Mr. Trump's comments will be seen as unacceptable by Palestinians, who see Gaza as their homeland, and by Arab countries which reject the forced displacement of people. Hamas says it will oppose plans to relocate Palestinians, whilst Islamic Jihad said the plans would encourage Israel to commit war crimes. But Mr. Trump's comments are already being welcomed by far-right politicians in Israel, some of whom want to restore Jewish settlements there. Let's take a listen to what President Trump told reporters on Air Force One. I'm looking at the whole Gaza Strip right now and it's a mess. It's a real mess. You'd like Jordan to house people from Gaza. To take people, I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General LCC tomorrow sometime I believe, and I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's over the centuries that said many conflicts at site, and I don't know, it's something has to happen. But it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's demolished and people are dying there. So I'd rather get involved with some of the Arab nations and build housing at a different location where they can maybe live in peace for change temporarily, or they could be temporarily, could be long-term. President Trump's comments come as thousands of displaced Palestinians are being prevented from returning to their homes in the north of the Gaza Strip, after Israel accused Hamas of breaching the terms of their ceasefire deal. These are live pictures from Gaza where people are waiting to return to their homes. There were some chaotic scenes on Saturday evening as Palestinians who had expected to be able to walk north following the completion of the hostage release found that the road was still blocked by Israeli tanks. Israel has so far prevented them crossing into the north until plans are in place for the release of Israeli civilian Arel Yehud, who is being held by the Islamic Jihad. The dispute came after Hamas freed 4 Israeli women soldiers on Saturday. They had been taken hostage from a military base on the Gaza border in the 7th of October 2023 attack. 1,200 Palestinian inmates were released from Israeli prisons, the second exchange to take place as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal. Well, our correspondent Nick Beek is in Jerusalem and has more on President Trump's comments and reaction to them. From the Israeli perspective, the right wing here has already said that this is fantastic news. You've got a prominent right-wing politician saying that this is exactly what they want to be hearing from America. We know that there are far-right extremists here who say that Gaza should be their homeland and they'd like to see Jewish settlers move there. In terms of the reaction from Palestinians, if you put yourself in the position of those families, we saw pictures just a moment ago of people waiting to move from the south where they've been displaced back to the north to try and find out what remains of their homes. I think there's a few ways of looking at this. Clearly their immediate priority is getting back home, but when they hear that sort of language from President Trump saying that is a wasteland, it's in ruins, it's over, clear the whole place out, that would be concerning. And also we've seen in the choice of the next American ambassador to Israel, this is someone Mike Huckabee, who previously has rejected the idea of a Palestinian state. Among other things, on the other hand, President Trump says he wants peace in the Middle East. He wants to strike bargains around the world, do deals, and included in that would be, you'd imagine, a deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia and Arab countries around here. There's no way they would countenance the expulsion, the moving out of Palestinians. So 2 ways of looking at these comments that President Trump has made today off the fly. It would seem he didn't really give a huge amount of policy detail, and when he was asked whether this was a temporary solution or a long-term thing, he said either could work. Yeah, I'm just seeing reports that Hamas official has vowed to, quote, oppose President Trump's idea of relocating Gazans. President talked about how he was going to talk to Jordan and Egypt. How are they likely to react to what he has suggested in those comments on Air Force One? Well, I think like everyone, they'll be trying to assess them and put them in the context of decades of American foreign policy, which has said that ultimately there should be a Palestinian state. The Biden administration were clear about that, and you had President Biden and Antony Blinken, his Secretary of State, and others talking about reconstructing Gaza for Gazans. Clearly this is a huge operation, but the Arab states were looking towards that, so we'll have to see what reaction comes in from the likes of Jordan and Egypt during the day. But clearly this is diametrically opposed to the direction they want to head in terms of beginning this task of rebuilding Gaza, of course, that's weeks, months off, because we're just a week into this very fragile ceasefire, yeah, and on that thousands of Palestinians, as we've said, are trying to get back into northern Gaza, but again at Prime Minister Netanyahu's office saying Hamas have breached the ceasefire deal. Why are they saying that Hamas have breached the deal? So this all boils down to the fate of one particular civilian hostage, Arel Yahud. She is 29 years old. It was widely expected and reported in the Israeli media over the past week that she would be released yesterday, but on Friday night when Hamas gave the list of the 4 women to be released, she wasn't on it, and in fact they were 4 soldiers. So Israel says that Hamas has basically undermined the deal, which says in essence that civilians should be released before soldiers. So what's happened is Israel says that as a result they are stopping all those Palestinian families in the south of Gaza moving to the north. They were getting ready to make that move with all the possessions they still have. So what's happened now is that Hamas have said, well, actually she'll be released next weekend, and Hamas and Islamic Jihad and other militant group have apparently provided proof of life for this civilian, and so it would seem now we're waiting for the Israelis to say whether or not this satisfies them. And they will give the green light to that huge number of people being able to move from the south of Gaza further to the north. Nick B. in Jerusalem was staying in the Middle East. The Lebanese Health Ministry has accused the Israeli army of firing up residents trying to return to their homes in southern Lebanon, killing at least 3 and injuring 44. Israel's military has missed a deadline to leave the area as a 60-day ceasefire deal expired. It has not said how long its forces will stay in Lebanon. Both Israeli troops and Hezbollah fighters were supposed to have completed their respective withdrawals. Israel says Lebanese troops have not deployed fast enough, while the Lebanese military blames Israeli pro-procrastination. Lebanon's new president called for restraint. Our Middle East correspondent Hugo B. is in Beirut and outlined what the deal was. This deal stipulated the withdrawal of Israel troops from the south of the country, and also the removal of Hezbollah fighters and weapons from the south, and at the same time thousands of Lebanese soldiers would be deployed to that part of the country. Now what the Israeli is saying is that this deal hasn't been fully implemented, that the Lebanese military hasn't really fully deployed to the south, and in response the Lebanese is saying that there have been delays in this deployment because of what they described as Israel's procrastination in pulling out from the country. But I think at the heart of what's happening here is what the Israelis have been saying, and that is that they need more time to dismantle Hezbollah infrastructure in the south of the country. They're still concerned about the Lebanese military's ability or even willingness to really act against Hezbollah in the south. This is a part of Lebanon where for decades Hezbollah has been the dominant force. Now we don't know how many Israeli troops remain here in Lebanon. We don't know how long they might stay in the country. And we don't know how Hezbollah is going to respond. I don't think anyone is expecting the conflict to resume, but I think any kind of violent reaction from Hezbollah is likely to face opposition, not only from its critics here in Lebanon but also from some of its own supporters in the country.